A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on a Monday night, as usual. Thank you all for joining me. So, international breaks are over and we're back in action. And what a win, eh? Against the mighty Burnley. I mean, they're strong, aren't they? Because they're propping up the whole of the Premier League. But all joking apart, it was rather poor, wasn't it? And for any of you, or for those of you that did watch my review, I did a review that came out on Sunday morning. I gave my thoughts over, the team selection and the way we played, etc., etc. So I'm going to maybe talk about that a little bit later on. But there's a lot of other stuff to talk about as well. But first of all, we've really got to start in only one place, haven't we? It seems that every other week we're talking about the passing of yet another great footballing icon. And for me, maybe not for all of you, but for me, Terry Venables was certainly an icon of the football world who passed away at the age of 80. God, sounds quite young, that, doesn't it? 80. For those of you who know or don't know, Venables was born in Dagenham. And he was picked up by Chelsea as a schoolboy, and he was recognised by quite a lot of prominent teams, London teams, including West Ham, before he signed as an apprentice at the age of 15 for Chelsea. While he didn't opt to join West Ham, he was being scouted and courted by the then Hammers defender and youth coach at the time, Malcolm Allison, who first came across his talents when he was quite young. And it was a relationship that Malcolm Allison and Venables were going to rekindle later on in both their careers. Venables made his first team debut for Chelsea in a 4-2 defeat in the first division back then against who else but West Ham United. At the Bowling Ground in February 1960, in a game that was better known to Hammers fans for fullback John Bond scoring a hat-trick whilst playing as an emergency centre forward. How many of you might have been there to watch that? Even that's before my time. That aside, Venables won the FA Youth Cup and with Chelsea in consecutive seasons in 60 and 61. He went on to become a regular starter for the West London club over the next 5 seasons. And then at the age of 23, he moved to Tottenham Hotspur in 1966, just a year later. He took and passed his FA coaching badges, setting the stage for a managerial career that spanned over 3 decades. Before that, however, Venables continued with his playing career and won the FA Cup with Spurs in 1967 before moving on to a third London club, Queen's Park Rangers, in 69. It was there under manager Gordon Jago that he began to take coaching sessions and help QPR with promotion to the first division in 1973. In 1974, Venables joined Malcolm Allison's Crystal Palace, where he ended his playing career before taking up a coaching role under the former Hammers guidance. Palace were in the third division, but reached the FA Cup final, the FA Cup semi-finals in 1976. When Allison departed soon after, Venables was appointed manager, creating a young side dubbed the Team of the 80s and leading them to promotion in 77 and 79. In 1980, he joined his old club, QPR, leading them to the 1982 FA Cup final as a second division club and promotion to the first division a year later. His coaching success prompted the mighty Barcelona to appoint him in 1984, and they christened him El Tel. He won La Liga, the Spanish Cup. He reached the 1986 European Cup final, losing to Steaua Bucharest on penalties in the 3 years that he was in charge there. He returned to England with another of his old clubs, Spurs, in 1987 and created quite an exciting team around the likes of Gary Lineker and Paul Gascoigne, who won the FA Cup in 1991. And in 1994, he was appointed England manager and led the Three Lions on a thrilling run to the semi-finals of the Euros, where they were defeated in penalties by Germany. That was the moment, I think, where he gained a lot of iconic status, a lot of kudos amongst many England fans and amongst many fans, across the world. I really genuinely thought that we were going to win the Euros that year. And like many England fans, I was absolutely gutted that we didn't. He should have stayed on at England, but the pompous FA seemed to be more worried about their image and than anything about having a proper coach to manage the England team. All right, yeah, we know the stories about his business dealings were a little bit shady, but goodness me, could you not have kept that one thing separate from the other? I don't know. I'm convinced we would have gone on to win something, a trophy with England under Venables if he'd stayed on as manager. I've never been able to really decide who was my all-time favourite England manager. I was too young to appreciate Sir Ralph Ramsey, but it was always between Venables and the late Bobby Robson. But perhaps because both got so close to winning something, a major trophy with England, I held them both in great esteem. Charismatic character who earned the respect of players wherever he worked. I'm sure you'll join me in expressing our sincere condolences to his family at this time. Right, before I go into anything else, I can see I've got quite a lot of comments. So let me scroll up and say hello to you all before I get into the nitty-gritty of West Ham United. So where are we? Good evening to you, Anthony. How are you? Rest in peace, Terry Venables. Took charge of Barcelona in '84, led them to their Liga title, following year, European Cup, etc. Absolutely, mate. Anthony, again, congratulations to the under-18s in the Premier League Cup thumping Middlesbrough 5-1. Going to talk about that in a little later on. Anthony, yet again, still, any truth about Nigerian player Sanusi left back who's supposed to be high on Steiden's shopping list? You know what? I will do transfer stories, but not now. Where are we? We're into the end of November. I'll promise you, I'll start doing transfer stories in a couple of weeks' time when we get that bit closer to the transfer window opening. Because right now, I can't corroborate whether any of these stories are true or not. We've been hearing transfer stories throughout the whole, like I've said in the past, it doesn't really matter whether the transfer window's open. You keep hearing loads of rumours. So with the greatest of respect, there probably is some truth in it. I don't know. But I will pick up on transfer stories in December. I promise, Anthony. Huge. Good evening to you. Our under-18s and development squad are ripping it up. They look so talented. The future is claret and blue. Totally agree with that. And I'm going to talk about the academy later on in the show. Good evening, CC. Disappointed many West Ham fans were saying we didn't deserve to win on Saturday. Yes, we weren't at our best. However, we did have the quality to find an equaliser and winner. That I agree with. No argument there. It's always great to snatch and grab. But we were poor. We were poor for a large chunk of that game. And thank goodness. I mean, I think, David Moyes did change it. He had no bloody choice but to change it. And when he changed it, things got better for us. I think the attacking players had something to aim for up front. Whereas with the greatest of respect, and I said this on my review of the game on Sunday, Danny Ings, unfortunately, didn't offer that outlet, which was a shame. Good evening, Hammerette. I hope you're well. Of course I'm always on Monday-ish. Good evening, Ballon. I hope you're well. I turned it off after 80 minutes. It was awful. Happy with the 3 points. Nothing more to be happy about. If you'd have turned it on with 10 minutes to go, you would have thought we were absolutely outstanding throughout the whole game. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Good evening, Ralph. I hope you're well. CC, that was bloody awful. We didn't deserve to win that at all. We were lucky. Well, as I said in the review on Sunday, you've got to create your own luck. And we certainly created our own luck. But it wasn't a great watch up until that point. Ballon. I've supported Moyes, but it's clear he relies on set pieces and moments of individual brilliance. There's no pattern of play apart from lump it into Soucek. Well, interestingly, neither of those goals came from a set play. They came from crosses, but they weren't set plays. I mean, they came from two crosses from Kudus. But he worked hard, Kudus, especially the first goal where he beat four players to get it across. And then the second one was a beautiful swing of the ball. So I get what you're saying, but they weren't set pieces. Hammerette. 2 games we've come back from in the last minutes with Souček's goals. Who'd have thought would have said that at the start of the season? Seems a new contract deal doesn't always turn players shite. That's very, very true. Good evening, Peter. How's the knee? Are you going to make it on Sunday? Let us know. Good evening, Martin. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Pete Gads, good evening to you. Mubama. I'm really trying to get this right because people are having a go at me at my pronunciations, which you all know are pretty crap. So Mubama. Mubama wasn't credited with a goal. Hopefully he still gets a chance in the Premier League. Well, you've got to be in that position to create the opportunity. And for me, Mubama was in that position, to give the defenders a choice, something to worry about. And if Mubama wasn't in that position, we may not have scored. Good evening to you, Clive. I hope you're well. Good evening, Si. I hope you're well. Just looking at our stats against Palace in the Premier League, not beat them at home since 2018. We've played Palace 10 times, 1-2, draw 4, lost 4. Thanks for bringing us down to earth. I hope you're well, Si. Good evening to you, Steve. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. CC, I'm angry with the rail strike on Sunday on West Coast Main Line. I'd already bought my rail tickets for 650-mile round. God, mate. Are you going to manage to get there, or is it going to be too difficult for you? I feel sorry for you, mate. Great, Clive, please remember, yes, please like the stream. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Thank you for that, Clive, for reminding me. Good evening, Zdenek. I hope you're well, mate. I said it all along, but everyone was laughing at me or called me biased about Souček. Last year, he was almost bullied by certain channels and the majority of the fan base, but there you go. You're right. A lot of the fan base wanted him gone. We know that Souček isn't the most skillful of players, but boy, oh boy, does he prove his worth at times when you kind of think, oh, maybe there are alternatives. Good morning, good afternoon. Good evening to you, Peter. I hope you're well. Moyes must go. You're going to have to give me more than that, mate, and explain further down the line. Billy Bob, good evening to you. I'm so glad you're caressing that button gently. You never know. I'm very late, by the way. Usual, good evening to you, mate. Fulham Wolves is a good game tonight. About 25 minutes to go. Fulham 2-1 up. Sorry I couldn't watch that, but, I missed these games to give you guys a show. There you go. Aren't I the saint? Wolves are missing Craig Dawson. Is he injured? Good evening to you, Epic. If Stella's ever on time, something must be horribly wrong. Let's scroll down. Let's see who else is here. Good evening to you, Adam. I hope you're well. Oh, I'm very well. Always well, mate. Always well. James, good evening to you, mate. Thank you for joining as well. Good evening, Aaron. Here's me rushing about, hoping not to be late. Then I remembered it's still, I've got ages. Yeah, you have. Fulham 2-2 now. Oh, that sounds like a good game. Shall I come off and come back on when it's finished? Let's scroll down. Who else we got? Bill, how are you? I hope you're well. That's unfair. Let's scroll down a bit more. Watching Bullet Train. That's a good film. West Ham Assassins, love it. Yeah, that really is a very, very good film to watch. I enjoyed watching that. Adam, good to see Mubama get game time. Will do his confidence the world of good and hope he gets more minutes against Palace. I'm hoping he gets more minutes in the game on Thursday as well. I believe Mubama will sign a new deal. He's West Ham's love. He's West Ham, loves the club, no worries. Got a bit of information about that later on. Cockney, good evening to you. Good evening, Black Country. Good evening to you, Andy. I hope you're well. The cat, I tell you what, the cat's fucked me off today. I'll tell you what happened very quickly. I made some chicken and I left it in the air fryer. I thought the air fryer was closed, didn't I? And then I came home from work and what happened? The fucking chicken was on the half eaten, only the bones were left. You've got to love your cats. Obsidian, good evening to you. 10 minutes? Only 5, mate. Only 5. Good evening, Trevor. I hope you're well. From South Africa. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Let's scroll down a bit more. Who else have we got? Cockney, Moyes' tactics was to lure Burnley in for 87 minutes, then hit them. What a tactician he is. Work to treat. Adam, rest in peace, Mr. Venables. Great manager and a legend. Absolutely. It does make me sad, because, you grow up with these, these managers, these players, etc. And you kind of see them when you're young, when you're a kid. It's part of the history of your football education, I guess. And then when they go, it is sad. It is quite sad. Good evening to you, Lee. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mates. Good evening to you, Sharky. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Sad news on Terry Venables passing away. Good evening to you, Lee. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Hammerette, are we all prepared to get a new coach, a new head coach in the summer, and a big possibility of at least a couple of seasons of transition? That's a really, really good point, because, you can't guarantee that a new head coach is going to hit the ground running. You don't know what could happen. Andrew, another great character gone. Rest in peace. Absolutely, mate. Good evening to you, Mark. I hope you're well. Can't take much more of what, mate? West Ham? You know what we're like. Dodsy, I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming on. I hope you're well, mate. I might get you on a live show one day, Dodsy. I know you like playing your golf and all that, and you'd rather do that, which I understand. But maybe, what about getting Dodsy on a live show for a change? He's, his hair really is that white or that yellow. What is it? White, yellow, white. When you're off to Serbia, Dodsy, he's going. I think you're going tomorrow, aren't you, mate? Or Wednesday? Old school, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Epic, the only transfers I'm interested in is the new manager. What would happen? I think I asked this last week, and I know people went absolutely ballistic over it. But what would happen if David Moyes has a very good season this season? In terms of, when I say very good, in terms of maybe we win another trophy or we get back into Europe or whatever, and he's given a new contract. You've seen the stats that have been knocking around over the weekend, I'm sure, about who's the best manager that we've had in terms of statistics, the most number of wins overall, David Moyes, and the most number of wins in the Premier League. I think Moyes comes second to, I'm going to say Bilic, but I'm not sure that's true. But I think it comes second to someone. And the best European record, again, David Moyes. I mean, it'd be very interesting to see what will happen. I know a lot of fans don't want him, but it'd be very interesting to see what the board does. And I'm sure that the board won't make any decision on David Moyes until the latter stages of the season. They're going to see where we're at. Have we won a trophy? Are we back in Europe or something like that before they make their decision? But what if it's good enough for the board to say, do you know what? We'll continue. I mean, I know the football's not great. Is David Moyes still in transition? We've still got quite a lot of players in our squad that are aging, that need to sort of move on. We need to replace, we need to get another right back, another left back. We need to get another goalkeeper that will be challenging Areola in goal. We've got quite a number of players. We've got Ogbonna, who probably won't get a new contract after this season because of his age, etc. Another 4 players, maybe Moyes might have the sort of squad that he wants to use to play more expansive football. Would you accept, actually, let me ask you in that way, would you accept if Moyes was given, say, another couple of years, he got another couple of, 3 or 4 more players in, and he started to have a team that could play more expansive football? Do you think he's even capable of doing that? I don't know. Martin. Back in the day, I couldn't figure out why those in charge couldn't differentiate between Terry Venables' coaching and his business dealings. He definitely would have gone on to win something with England. Absolutely, I think. Paul, good evening to you. A West Ham massive win, and rest in peace, Terry Venables. Absolutely. Fornals and Paquetá kicking off. What are you talking about, mate? Have I missed something? Tell me more. Tell me more, because I don't know about that. Obsidian. I'm not going to say that out loud. Cockney, with our youth, we could have our own Busby babes on our hands, but it won't happen as Moyes won't play them. Well, maybe by default, he started to put Mubama in. Let's see where he goes with this, because I will be immensely disappointed if David Moyes played Mubama whilst we have the injuries and then says to the lad, right, Antonio's back, Bowen's back, your 3rd or 4th choice up front. That would be extremely disappointing. Finn, has my phone gone off there? No, it hasn't. Finn, we only seem to win away games when the Dolly Birds turn up. Hammerette, Paquetá had a shy attitude on the pitch. Perhaps he's heard news about his investigations then. What's happened? Have I missed something? Hearing players are not happy with the style of play. Dodsy, You know my thoughts on that, mate. It's rumor. You know, we keep having players. I think Emerson was the last one that came out and was giving praise to Moyes and West Ham. And I think the I can't remember his name, the goalkeeper, the West Ham goalkeeping coach has come out last week and talked about David Moyes as well. I don't know. You know, you keep hearing these rumors, Dodsey. I'm not saying they're not true, but I don't know how much element of truth there is in them. You know, I think players, when they're not picked or if they're not playing the style of football, you want them to sort of like not just rest on their laurels and go, oh well, it doesn't matter. It shows that they care. But I don't know, mate. You know, I hate poo-pooing those comments, but I'm just not 100% sure there's too much truth in them. Mikey, good evening to you. Paul Mubama will now be dropped when Antonio comes back in and never seen again. Well, this is it. This is Moyes' opportunity to demonstrate that it's not just because we have injuries. All right, you know, yes, because of injuries, Mubama has now been given an opportunity. But let's hope if Mubama is actually proving himself, you know, if he has any game time against TSC on Thursday, if he has any game time against Crystal Palace next Sunday, and he's beginning to show what he's capable of doing, let's hope that's not the end of it. I will agree with you, Mikey. If Mubama then disappears into the ether once Antonio and Bowen and players like that are back, that would be extremely disappointing. Good evening, Garino. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Old school Paul, good evening to you. That game was the pinnacle of what Moyes is all about. Apart from the 2 goals, well, maybe. But if you were to describe Moyes' West Ham, that was it in a nutshell. Yep. Let's scroll down a bit. Barney, good evening to you. Thank you. Mubama. I know. I can do it if I really, really try. Good evening, Wolf. Good evening to you. Souček has awful games every single match, but if he scores a goal, I'm okay with that. Well, this is it. I think we think he has awful games because he doesn't have the flair of Paqueta and players like that. It's interesting. I don't know when I said it. I did it in a show recently where I started asking, you know, what's Paqueta's worth to us? Because he does all the good stuff and he will score a sensational goal and he'll set up a goal and all that sort of stuff, you know, and there are times, you know, when we complain about Souček giving the ball away or mispassing it, there are as many times that Paqueta does the same thing. But because Paqueta's got a bit of grace and air, you know, that sort of flair about him, we kind of let him off more. You know, we don't have a go at him for giving the ball away, and he does do it quite a lot. Cockney, Mubama's movement released Kudus to get just enough to allow him to work his magic. Didn't have that with static Ings on the pitch. I agree with that, unfortunately, and I think that's why a player like Kudus came alive in the latter stages of the game, because he did definitely have someone like Mubama who was moving a lot more, creating problems for Burnley's defence, you know, closing them down, etc., you know, making them rush and so on. It definitely changed the game without a doubt. Finn, does anyone know when Shedman will be making his 23-24 season debut? I don't know. He messaged me the other day. I know he's away at the moment, working, etc. So it might be a bit of time before, because I mentioned to him, you know, doing a Friday night, and he said, yeah, unfortunately not till January. Hammers Mikey, Billy Bob caressing those YouTube channels. Still 2-2. Andrew, Mubama's cameo at Burnley has given me a glimmer of hope that we may get the spark to ignite this season from the mediocrity we're witnessing so far. Dan, I hope you're well, mate. Sunday left me conflicted. Happy we won, but God, was it awful to watch. It wasn't great without a show. You know, can't deny it wasn't great. Hammerett, at least it was only Burnley we were playing, to be fair. Any other side and we could have been absolutely thrashed. It's out of our system now. Roll on Palace who well, you saw Sai's comment there earlier on. We haven't beaten them that many times lately. And I agree with that comment, though. You know, if it was a better side, would we have had that opportunity to get back in it? I suggested in the review of the game that I think Burnley's slight inexperience of closing down a game was the thing that killed it for them. Was the thing that you know, and it's great. And I said about, you know, they've got decent youth players, decent young players in their lineup, but sometimes the experience is what's required to close the game off. And I'm just not sure Burnley, I mean, great. I mean, Vincent Kompany is without a shadow of a doubt going to become a great manager, and he's cutting his teeth at Burnley. It's been a difficult one. If they go down, I expect Burnley to come straight back up, and he'll be much better suited, Vincent Kompany, the second time around to keep Burnley up and do relatively well. But keep having quite a lot of young players. Fantastic. Play the youth, but at the same time, the youth have the inexperience to finish a game off. Wolf, I was really happy for Mubama scoring and Kudus saving us at Burnley. He must start Mubama on Thursday. Do you agree? I don't necessarily agree that he should start him, but absolutely don't agree that he's got to start Ings instead. And I talked about sort of some of the alternatives that we had available, David Moyes had available to him. He could have, for example, played, I don't know, Cornet, either up front. He's no stranger to that. Or he could have played Fornals, or he could have played Benrahma out wide to push the likes of who am I thinking of? Paquetá in the middle as a false number 9. So he did have different options, or he could have played Cornet out wide and had Mubama, Kudus as a false number 9. He had options, and I want to see what's going to happen on Thursday, because I don't think Bowen will be back for that game. Certainly Antonio won't be back for the TSC game, and you just cannot have, with the greatest of respect, Danny Ings starting that game on Thursday. He demonstrated that he had nothing, unfortunately, to give to West Ham. No disrespect to him, but he can't play the system that David Moyes wants. So I'm not so sure Mubama will start on Thursday. I think he'll get game time, but it's going to be interesting to see what Moyes does with team selection when it comes to who might play up front. Benrahma might get back in the starting 11, and that might push Paquetá into the middle. Finn, we need to move Zuma on. Limps around like Heather Mills without a prosthetic. His knees have gone. His knees have definitely gone. And it is a worry. Yeah, also, whenever Zuma comes back from injury, it takes him 2 or 3 games to get back into the swing of it. When he played against Nottingham Forest, my goodness me, he was very slow there. And he was all rightish against Burnley, but like many people say, against a better team, I think our defence would have suffered. Certainly, Soufal suffered with their left winger. Can't remember his name on Saturday. He drove Soufal mad, and Zuma wasn't really covering for Soufal too much either. Good evening to you, Ian. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Flemmer, the explanations about Moyes out. Is that to me, or is that you're replying to someone? Wolf, I don't know what Zuma's wife does to him every evening before match day. They need to cut down on the kinks. Clive, Terry Venables came to Crawley to scout some lads. I was only 7 and he asked me who I thought was good. I pointed out my brother and it went no further. Oh dear. Howard, evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. I met Eltel in a restaurant in Paris the day of the 1998 World Cup final. Lovely bloke. You could see he was a lovely bloke, couldn't you? Good evening to you, Stefan. How are you? Stel Lachaud, as always, from our own Jeff Stelling. Info machine. I like that. Jeff Stelling. Thank you. I quite like that. Good evening to you, Ian. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Is Dodgy still there? Did he explain? I've missed his comment, maybe. Carino, rest in peace, Eltel. 96 was the best despite the Germans. Absolutely. Anthos, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Please think of football. No Moyes. Dan, Moyes doesn't have it in him to change, mate. He's always been one-dimensional. It's time for change. I'm not, you know what I've been like about David Moyes. I've been like, I was vehemently Moyes in for a long time. And then I dithered last season, around about this time, just after the World Cup. I was sort of like, I don't know. It's not looking good. And then it's like, you know what? Whilst he's our manager, I'll support him. And when he's gone, I'll support the new manager as well. Pegads. I'm okay with Moyes playing his style with players who are actually okay with playing the low block counter ball. Old school. He's a lucky man, is Moyes. I wouldn't be surprised if we pull it off. I wouldn't be surprised. Ian, Cornet, remember him? He's still around. And I did suggest, maybe he's not using Cornet because of this injury that he had was quite unique. There's an awful lot of talk about they're trying to manage that as best they can. He's even been dropped now from his the national Ivory Coast, the national team as well. And it is a concern. I just wonder where that's going to go with Cornet. Upton Turf. Moyes has done a good job. There's a lot to be said about stability. And that bit I totally actually agree with, to be honest with you. I think he has brought stability. If nothing else, we've got to thank him for that because look at the way we've yo-yoed over the years. Quite a long time, to be quite honest with you. We've been a team where we've kind of flattered to deceive. Remember Bilic? The first season was absolutely wonderful. The last season at the Bowling, and then it went all tits up after that. And then Pellegrini, when he came in, we're like, oh wow, here we go. Premier League winner and all that sort of stuff. And we thought it was going to happen. First season good, second season woeful. And it's been very up and down. Even before, Bilic, etc., we've had really sort of up and down seasons on and off, being relegated and so on and so forth. We've even had to bring Allardyce in order to bring stability back to the club. But with just like Allardyce, you just wonder whether Moyes has stayed one season too long. And I think that's the concern, that perhaps, his time should have been up at the end of last season, a lot of people say. And maybe at the end of this season, no matter what happens, it should be Moyes' last season. But it kind of wouldn't surprise me one bit if, as just mentioned, if he pulled off, winning a trophy, getting us back into Europe again, that the owners might turn around and go, why not another couple of seasons and see what happens? Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Sean. I hope you're well, mate. I haven't seen you for a while. Thank you for joining. Conan, good evening to you as well. Has Pep City had a player like Paquetá? Flair players give ball away. It can't be coached out of them. City don't take risks in possession or showboat. Balotelli wouldn't get into Pep's team. Very true. And I'm thinking about Paquetá and thinking to myself, there was a point where he played himself into Pep Guardiola's thinking. And now Pep Guardiola must be thinking to himself, he's giving the ball away quite a lot. He's doing all this flashy stuff in his own half, and he's we've conceded penalties from it. We've lost goals from it, etc. And Guardiola wouldn't put up with that. So it'd be quite interesting to see what happens with Paquetá at the end of this season and whether Man City is still interested in him. Wolf, is it true Moyes said we're conceding too many goals? Yeah, because we were playing too attacking. Not quite that, but I get that perhaps that's how it might have been interpreted. He talked about what he said was we're trying to play expansive football, we're trying to play a different style of football, etc., but we're conceding goals, which kind of, I can see how it segues into, suggesting that by playing attacking football, we're conceding. He's got to sort the defense out. That's the problem that we've got. He's got to put Alvarez back into the pivot in front of the defense and not have the two. It doesn't work for me having James Ward-Prowse alongside Alvarez so deep. James Ward-Prowse is more effective slightly further forward. Let Alvarez do that job in front of the back four as he was doing at the beginning of the season. But I think the problem is the reason why, probably for me, he's put in two defensive-minded midfielders in there is because of Kurt Zouma. I think he's compensating for Kurt Zouma. Look, if you've got a problem with Kurt Zouma, drop the fella and play Mavropanos. Because I still think that quite possibly Mavropanos and Agurd could become a better midfield centre-back duo than Zouma and Agurd. I think Agurd, he's got a mistake in him every now and again, but I think he's got his work cut out for him because Zouma doesn't have the pace. And I just wonder if that's what David Moyes is doing. If David Moyes is compensating because Zouma isn't quite up to speed, then bloody well change the defence. It's bad enough we got Soufal, who in a way is getting better going forward, but Soufal, struggles. Look how he struggled on Saturday against Burnley. He definitely did struggle. And let's face it, that challenge in the first half against that Coloseo, something like that, that challenge in the first half was a nailed-on penalty. And I'm surprised that it wasn't given. The second challenge, the Kudus challenge, was far less of a penalty than the first one that Soufal gave away. But I just wonder, if we're conceding too many goals, then all right, yes, of course the whole team has to defend. Of course they do. You defend from the front and all that sort of stuff, and you then defend in midfield, etc., etc., etc. But it's the back four that worry me, and if that's the case, then do something different. Drop Zuma, and see what Mavropanos is like alongside a Gerd, not just for 5 minutes, but for a couple of games. Bill, unfortunately, Moyes is set in his ways. He's had chances to play differently, but he can't. Cockney, Moyes can't seem to get a decent tune out of this squad, and yet they look capable of much more. And yet the irony is, we're grinding out results. I kind of suggested, in the review on Sunday that, is it a sign of a good team when you're not playing well, you're winning? That's when you need to win games. And we are a good team, or we've certainly got a good squad. If Moyes is, like I've just said, if Moyes is, not getting the best tune out of this squad because he's trying to compensate for some players who just quite aren't at it, change the players. That's what the squad is for. Change them, put different players in. Like I said, it's going to be interesting. I think we'll beat TSC on Thursday in the Europa League, but I'm going to be very interested to see what Moyes does with the team selection, because not only is it good to change the players in order to put stronger players on Thursday. Conan, I see Paquetá's having his creativity and self-expression stifled at City. He'd never get the freedom he needs to flourish. And isn't that the irony? That we talk about David Moyes being a manager who doesn't like flair players and, gets rid of them and all that sort of stuff. Got rid of Anderson, got rid of Haller and players like that. And yet he's given Paquetá a lot of license to fuck around on the pitch. It can't please him. It's a weird one. It's an interesting scenario we have there. Yes, a bit of bone news later on, mate. Antos, West Ham Online have said players are happy with Moyes. They'd be even happier if they played in the right position. This is why, you don't know what's going on in the background. There's a lot of rumor, a lot of speculation. There was an awful lot of rumor, an awful lot of speculation last year, and a lot of it was disproven. Players weren't playing for Moyes, and this and that and the other, and kind of like got to the point where a lot of the things that were being suggested were just like, you couldn't see it. It wasn't happening. So yeah, I don't know. Hammerett, call me empathetic, but I feel for Ings' mental health. Moyes keeps putting him on. Fans calling for Mubama the entire time Ings is playing. I feel bad for him. But you're a footballer. You're getting paid good money. And when you're given an opportunity, you've got to try and do something. You could see Danny Ings doesn't have the legs. He doesn't have the pace. Never had a lot of pace anyway. And someone said in the review, commenting on the review afterwards, that he's more of a player that's sort of like a fox in the box type player. He's not known. He's never been known for his running and his tracking down, etc. He's the sort of player that gets on the end of gets in the right positions, but with support around him. Sean, Mubama will start in Europe. Ings to be protected for the Premier League or the other way round. I genuinely don't think, I could be wrong, but I genuinely don't think that Ings will start either game. I think I just don't think it will happen. Victor, how far behind am I? Not far. Moyes will never change the way he plays. He spent over 400 million, still playing the same way, and doesn't know how to use strikers. In that respect, I agree. I did a show a month or so ago about the money we spent under David Moyes. 400 million pounds. I can't remember the number of players have come and gone, and he doesn't know how to use strikers. I think that's evident. Rupert, I hope you're well, mate. Merry Christmas too. Well, too early. Can everyone buy a bottle of spice rum for the host? He deserves it for putting up with us. Thank you. Bottle of spice rum will be most welcome. Absolutely most welcome. Mikey, sorry, but I'd rather dangle my testicles over Pink Sands Yankee Candle than put up with any more Pink Sands Yankee Candle. Now, that sounds like an expensive candle to buy to dangle your testicles over with any more of this depressing crap week in, week out. And Suchek's passing gives me hope of becoming a footballer. Yeah, but isn't it strange that, but what I said earlier, we accept Paquetá for effing up, but we don't accept it from Souček. I find that quite interesting. Monumental, good evening to you. When will our spending restrictions be lifted and we can continue contributing to players' pensions? Stephen, good evening to you. There are rumours that Souček is unhappy with the style of play from Moyes. That doesn't make sense when Souček is benefiting from that style. That's a massive rumour. And that's the rumour that was bandied around last season as well, that Souček was unhappy and he was going to leave and he wasn't going to sign a new contract. And yet he signed a 4-year deal, a new 4-year deal. Steve, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. I really hope Mubama gets more game time now. The kid deserves it. I absolutely agree. 3-2 at Fulham. Wow, that's a game I'm missing, isn't it? Let's scroll down a little bit more. Wolf, Danny, Moyes has nothing to lose starting Mubama on Thursday. I'm pretty sure every single fan will be happy to see his obsession with Danny Ings end. Andrew, I love Paquetá, but he has the look of a player just going through the motions until he gets his move back on to City. Well, like I said, will he get his move to City the way he's playing? I'm not so sure. You know, I'm not so sure. He keeps playing like that. I think he won't get the move to City, to be quite honest with you. Let's scroll down. George, good evening to you. One thing about Paquetá is you can't deny is his level of effort in match. Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, no, don't disagree with that. He puts his foot in the lad, and you know, for a Brazilian player getting his foot stuck in, absolutely, totally agree. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great player. I think what I'm suggesting is when you're looking at the likes of Souček, who the fans get on the back of because he makes mistakes, etc., loses the ball and so on. Paquetá gets a bit of a free rein when he does it almost as much as, I'm going to do a stat report. He does it almost as much as Souček does, Paquetá. Rico, good evening to you. I hope you're well. My deep, you know, what's happened to Everton? Rico's an Everton fan, and welcome, mate. You know, you're always welcome here. I think what's happened is a bit. It's a bit disturbing about what Everton getting 10 points docked, because now we're all expecting, of course, Man City and Chelsea to get their points docked, and they've broken financial rules a lot worse than you guys have. So let's see what treatment they're going to get. Adam. We are still 4 to 6 players short of an attacking team. Right back, left back, central defender, striker, left winger, player for the squad. I did say before I didn't think it was that many, but when you start to look at, you know, the players we have in the squad, with the greatest of respect to them, some of them have been great servants to West Ham United, but you do realise, goodness, we're still building a different squad here. We're still having to keep building on top of what's already been built. Mikey. Same with Antonio. Really keep Moyes picking him, and this leading to fans' hatred towards players. You mentioned that's about Ings. Let's scroll down. Andy. Sharky, I bet if that was Kane, the dubious goal panel would give it to him. Sadly for Mubama, light conference game, he doesn't yet have that luck. I think you're right there. Sai, we struggled with Burnley's pace, so God help us against Eze and Olise. Eze's injured. Unfortunately for Crystal Palace, but thankfully for us. But Elise, I agree with you, Si, definitely. David, TSC game is tricky. I think we need a strong team, but not full strength. Ings, not Ings. Ings, not Ings is only one dilemma. Who do we start? I don't think Ings will start, but let's see. Finn, Sunday Palace will let us have the ball, so we will struggle. As always we do. Finn again, top half still in all 3 cups. We're top half of the league, still in all 3 cups. Moyes has us exactly where we should be, mixing it with the best of the rest. And this is the massive dilemma, isn't it, Finn? You're absolutely correct. We're still in all the cup competitions. We're in the top half of the league. You know, all right, the football isn't great, but you know, I kind of asked the question recently. You know, what do we want? Do we want style over substance? Are we happy to play great, like we've done in the past under other managers, and lose games? Or are we happy that we're winning games, grinding out results? Of course, what we want is the best of both worlds. But how many teams actually play the best of both worlds? Look, all right, I'm looking at the missus is away, so I've watched a bit more football than I normally do at the weekend. And I saw the likes of Aston Villa, the way they play. Yeah, very impressive. You know, and other teams, the way they've been playing. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I think we can possibly get more out of this squad. But it may not happen overnight. This is the thing. Will we accept a season where, let's say, for argument's sake, we win a trophy? and we get back into Europe, let's say for argument's sake, and then a new manager comes in and it's all fucked, and we get knocked out of cup competitions, we get knocked out of Europe early, out of group stages and all that, and all we've got to play for is the league, and we finish mid-table. How many of us would accept that, thinking that, well, it's a transition period under another manager? Or would we expect this great manager that we're going to get to, push on in the first season and get us back up, and continue in the league in Europe and continue in cup competitions, etc.? What would happen if a new manager comes in that plays all this flair football and we get knocked out of all competitions early on? What then? Enough of the comments already. Get on with the show. I will do in a minute. I'll do a few more, and then I'll get on with the show. Moyes changes things up on, hopefully Moyes, good evening, Bill. Hopefully Moyes changes things up on Thursday. The past few weeks have seen some small changes. Who knows? Ings to start with Mubama to have the Premier League start on the weekend. Interesting. Rowley, good evening to you. Watch your style, keep it. Thank you very much, mate. Moyes' ball is too limited for the players we now have. Take a look at the league table and the teams above us. We won't catch them playing the way we're playing at the moment. Okay. Let's go on to some other news, shall we? And we'll come back to this because, we could talk about this all night and just do a show on this. Maybe I won't do a Hammers news roundup and just do talk about Moyes for the whole 2 hours. First up, I'm going to get through this quickly, so bear with me. There's a big question mark over the appointment of women's team manager Rayhan Skinner. She has been in management since 2006 when she managed women's teams like Leicester, Spurs, and West Ham on the domestic front, and as well as assistant coach of Wales and England, and working on international level with academies. She was also assistant coach and part of the Arsenal women's treble winning team back in 2011. Last season, at the end of during last season, she was sacked from her role at Spurs in March after 9 straight defeats. And ironically, we go and sign her up to become the West Ham women's manager this season. Didn't understand that. One cannot say we weren't warned about her. She hasn't exactly been a success since taking over from West Ham. We've won just 1 game in the league and drawn 1 in 8 games, and we're second from bottom, where Bristol City are bottom of the Women's League. And guess who beat West Ham and are bottom? Yeah, Bristol. Bristol have got 4 points as well, and 3 of those were got from beating us. The women's team were in action at the weekend in the Premier League, and they were smashed again, as they have been or most of this season, losing 3-0 to Arsenal. All 3 goals came in the first half. There was no way back after that. That's it. You can relax. I've done the women's stuff now. Let's move on to the under-18s, because the under-18s are going to be in Premier League action on Tuesday in the Premier League. Sorry, under-21s. Haven't done the under-18s. The under-21s are back in action on Tuesday, where they play in the Premier League International Cup on Tuesday at 7 p.m. at Chigwell Construction Stadium. They play against Olympique Lyonnais, who visit East London. The Young Hammers will hope to follow up wins against, just like they did against Valencia and Celtic. They've so far scored 6 goals and conceded none in this tournament so far. Steve Pott's men are currently on a 12-game unbeaten run in all competitions. Well done to them. They are doing absolutely superb. A reminder of what the Premier League International Cup is. It features 12 of England's best academy teams against 12 of the top development squads in the rest of Europe. 12 teams from Premier League 2 and 12 teams from Europe are split into 3 groups of 8. Each Premier League 2 club will play each of their 4 international clubs in the group, meaning that the PL2 teams do not face each other. They all play against European opposition. And neither do the international teams play one another in the group stages. So good luck to them. I don't know if tickets are available. I was looking to see if they were, but I couldn't find anything on the website. And staying with the under-21s, they will play Colchester United in the last 32 of the EFL Trophy, now known as the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, on the 5th of December. The Young Hammers will travel to the JobServe Community Stadium to take on EFL League 2 side with kickoff set for 7:30. Remember, The EFL trophy is against lower league teams, full teams, not their under 21s, but this is against the full teams in the lower leagues of England. The under 21s so far, they beat Bristol Rovers, Newport County, and Cheltenham Town to book their place in the knockout stages for the first time since 2020-21 season. Meanwhile, the under 21s progressed as runners up in their group following wins over Peterborough and Cambridge United and a defeat to Tottenham. Steve Pott's side will hope to reach the last 16 of the competition for the first time in the club's history with a win on the 5th of December. And I know that tickets are available or will be made available for that in due course. Wouldn't it be great to go and watch them play? They are a fantastic set of youngsters, and so too are the under 18s as well, because November's been quite a good month for them. And they've had 2 games, 2 wins, 2 goals conceded, and they smashed in 10. So it wasn't enough just to beat Reading 5-1 in the Premier League under 18s game a few weeks ago. They were at it again against Middlesbrough when they smashed them in the Premier League Cup. You keeping up with all these competitions? West Ham United under 18s reached the knockout stages of the tournament following a comprehensive 5-1 win of Middlesbrough. Lewis Orford and Ollie Scarles combined to see the Hammers open the scoring on 26 minutes when Orford found the net after Scarles won the ball in midfield. And then favour for Wumney, look out for him. Yet another talent who seems to be smashing goals in as if it was like nothing. So watch out for his name for the future. He added the second on the stroke of half time with a stunning volley to see West Ham go into a 2-goal lead. Although Kevin Keen's team weren't done yet. Second half, the under 18 showed their class again to take all 3 points, producing a clinical attacking display. Orford was again involved, although this time the provider, as Ezra Mayers poked home a wicked free kick before for Wumney added his second of the match and finished a neat move to make it 4-0 with 55 minutes played. Dan Rigg, then another future prospect, then hit the bar. Let's get rid of that. Dan Rigg then hit the bar as they were proving too strong for their opponents. They got a consolation goal, but then Jemiah Umolu's penalty 10 minutes from time sealed the win, 5-1. The under-18s have previously beaten Derby County and drawn with Arsenal to seal top spot in this Group B of this competition with 7 points from their 3 games. They are absolutely fantastic. Well done to them. Now, staying with the under-21s, I want to bring something up with Hammers News. I don't know if anyone reads Hammers News. They sort of put out information on our social media, etc. And Hammers News came up with this story, and I was looking at it going, what are they going on about? And I'll tell you what they're going on about. Apparently, Hammers News did an article on Dan Chesters, who is having a very decent season with the under-21s, playing as a wing-back, a right wing-back, after he had a pretty forgetful loan spell at Colchester last season. And Hammers News were waxing lyrical about Chesters because he was spotted in training with the senior squad. No, mate. It weren't Dan Chesters. It was Lewis Orford who was seen training with the senior squad, who was a central midfielder, not a right wing-back. And he also is having a very good season with the under-21s. And if you think I'm wrong, Hammers News, go and check out the West Ham development squad on the website, because Orford is our number 61, where Chesters is our number 51. You know, I always get things wrong, so it's really nice to actually put right people that get it wrong as well. Right, what a bit about some loan news as well. Well, first off, Flynn Downs was in action again. Played the full 90 minutes for Huddersfield. For Southampton. There, I got it wrong. Played the full 90 minutes for Southampton in their 1-1 draw against Huddersfield in the Championship at the weekend. Southampton looked set to make it 4 wins in a row after going ahead a minute into added time at the end of the first half. However, Huddersfield levelled 3 minutes from full time to ensure they got the share of the points. Southampton are 4th in the league. After 17 games, a point behind Leeds United and 8 behind Ipswich Town, who are in the 2nd automatic promotion place. He's doing exceptionally well, Flynn Downs, and I'm really, really pleased for him. Another player out on loan, mentioned him several times before, Nathan Trott, kept goal for Visual BK in their 1-1 draw against bottom of league side Vidori, can't pronounce that, on Friday evening. The 24-year-old saw his team take the lead inside 10 minutes. However, the home side leveled 10 minutes before time. Vajul sit 11th, which is one above Vidori in the Superliga, and they look like they might get automatically relegated. Next up, Mason Terry also started in goal and produced an impressive performance for Concord Rangers as the Essex side drew 1-1 with Horsham in the Ismail League Premier Division. Concord's 7th point of the season mean they remain bottom of the table, but the Canby Island-based team are now within a point of second from bottom, Haringey Borough. Other players out on loan. Well, no players, actually other players played. Freddie Plotz is still injured, who missed a 2-1 win. Who missed a 2-1 defeat to Reading in League One. Christian Heggie, our under-21s goalkeeper, was an unused sub for Stevenage in their 2-0 win over Fleetwood. And Kamari Swire was also another unused sub for Crawley Town, who won 2-1 at home against Harrogates. Keenan Forsan, he was one that I was waxing lyrical about a couple of seasons ago, saying that, he's another player that's going to, really take off. Unfortunately, he was another unused sub for Dagenham and Redbridge in their home defeat by Rochdale. And Archie Woods was likewise another unused sub for Dartford in their 3-0 win over Torquay. I worry when our young players go out on loan and don't get any game time in the lower leagues. That worries me. Right. Do I go back into chat? Let's go back into a bit more chat, and then I'll go into the headlines that are up, which include Mubama, Bowen, etc., etc. So let's go a few more comments. Andrew, Ogbonna too old and slow, Zuma too injury prone and slow, plus the jury's out on a Gerd and Mavropanos, big issues in defence moving forward. I don't think Mavropanos has had an opportunity to demonstrate that he can really do it, and because I think he's probably good enough, and I think, like I said, I could be wrong, but like I said, I think Mavropanos could be a better foil alongside a Gerd. I think they could conjure up a decent defensive relationship there. Martin, Ings up front on his own says it all. Moyes is clueless. Paquetá CC is a showman. I love that. Don't we all? My favourite all-time player was Alan Devonshire. But Alan Devonshire, he didn't lose the ball an awful lot of times. Whereas Paquetá, he unfortunately does. Ralph, Moyes did say because of us playing attacking football, I watched it, unless I've lost my marbles. I think maybe people understood it that way. He said something to that ilk. Adam, Paquetá plays the flash stuff in the wrong areas. That's what I think. Instead of playing the easy ball, wants to show off, and it cost us at least 3 or 4 goals this season. Don't disagree. Good evening to you, Dean. I hope you're well. If the board give him a new contract, I think it would be difficult to see how it fits with the Tim Steidten ethos and the direction he sees long term. Really good point. Billy, Maguire has a mistake in him, but you don't hear people complaining about him. No, and he's back in the Man United team, isn't he? Hammerett, Dowie said that Ings in the warm-up was finishing perfectly. He must have much confidence as he does goals this season. Finishing perfectly in training and finishing perfectly in a real game is very different. Black Country, sell beg leg in the summer. Way too slow. Zuma, I'm guessing that is. Way too slow, gets caught out and can't get back to do what he's to do his defensive duties. Andy, Moyes wouldn't know attacking football if it jumps out and attacked him. He is clueless and constantly gaslighting us. Moyes out. Good evening, Football with Brad. How are you? Haven't seen you for a long time. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for joining. Stell's Wi-Fi, don't, please don't. Oh, come on. I haven't seen anything go down, so I'm assuming it's okay. Please don't tell me that the Wi-Fi, I've not seen anything flash up to suggest that, oh no, here we go. I'm back. I think we need to go fund you and improve your internet. I don't know what happened there because I didn't see anything flashing up. I do apologize. Oh dear. I thought that was sorted out with a new, went out and bought. Thank you to some of the people, by the way, who gave me a little bit of money on PayPal. I don't promote it because I feel embarrassed by it. But that money went towards a new web camera. So thank you for that. And I thought that sorted out the Wi-Fi. Seems not. So I'm going to have to look into it again. Si, on a positive note, 20 points halfway to safety. That is very true. Lee, Stell's going on like nothing's happened. I didn't think anything did. Does he know he's just talked for 2 minutes without anyone listening? Oh dear. Adam, Moyes is here until the end of the season. I can get all the moaning. I moan after most games, even when we win, but it won't change. If Moyes wins a trophy, he'll get another 2 years hard watch. Shaky, how many points for safety this season? 37, 38, I would guess will be more than enough. Thank you, Lee. Much appreciated, mate. And Anthony, really grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Good evening to you, Foxes. I hope you're well. I hope I'm back and okay. You know, oh, God. Nothing came up to indicate that the Wi-Fi was down. So I hope you can see me and hear me okay. I'm going to scroll down a bit more so I can get on with the show. Adam, so many rumours and bad-mouthing Moyes. I think it's all them Moyes out who's spreading the rumours are mostly rubbish. Unfortunately, I've got to say that it's not, you know, there are a lot of rumours and there's nothing really corroborated, or certainly not lately. James, I kind of like Moyes gaslighting the fans. After all, it's clearly only the Methaners who are scalded by it. Mikey, Moyes will stick with Ings, hoping he scores just so he can turn around and say to the fans, told you so. He's just as stubborn, arrogant and egotistical. I don't think he will. I really don't think he will. Good evening to you, Trini. I hope you're well. Another one I've not seen for a while. Hope you're well. Elise is on fire. Evening to you. Yes, I saw the highlights and he looked fantastic goal he scored, wasn't it? Absolutely superb goal he scored. Conan, right back is a huge problem for us. Soufal has a great attitude, but he's a journeyman and he'll get smoked against bigger teams. Don't disagree with that. Johnson's done. Johnson disappeared from the ether and Kehrer can't get game time. I don't know why Kehrer can't get game time, to be quite honest with you. I think he had a dodgy period of time last season, but you name me a player that didn't go through a period of time last season that wasn't dodgy. I feel sorry for Kehrer, to be quite honest with you. Let's scroll down and try and get to the bottom of these comments. Trini, honestly, I just want to see adaptability from Moyes because he has made us difficult to beat. He has done that. He has made, well, we're still conceding a hell of a lot of goals. I'd like to see a few clean sheets, but you're absolutely right. We've been more difficult to beat of late. Dan, with the quality of attacking players we now have, mate, we really should be more expansive going forward. He just needs to have the bottle to go for it a bit more against certain teams. I don't disagree with that. I totally agree. By the way, are you going on Sunday? Hopefully I'll see you. And mine's a double spice rum and coke in the Premier Inn. Mark, I would accept a transition period with us not being in Europe if a new manager integrated some of our brilliant young talent. Fair point. Good evening to you, old man. I hope you're well, mate. Hammers Mikey, thought that was Frank Skinner. Who? Me? Don't look anything like him. I look more like David Baddiel, apparently. Matt Hammerett, my spud bro. Oh my God, you kept that quiet. My spud brother-in-law, oh, that's not so bad. My spud brother-in-law watched the Spurs ladies game last night saying he just needs to see Spuds win a match. They lost 7-0. Ian, I must give credits for Souček for scoring as I've been giving him stick. He's come up with some vital goals, hasn't he? He really has. Let's scroll down. Sharky. Colchester have been struggling in League Two over the last few years. I fancy our youngsters can beat them. I do too, mate. I do too. Conan, I'd like to see Souček staying forward and making a nuisance of himself, not having to pass the ball in midfield, getting his head on things and giving defenders something extra to worry about. What about that goal that he scored against Burnley at the weekend? Wasn't it a great... that was a great technical strike. The way he caught that, you know, if Paquetá had scored that or someone else with flair, you go, oh, look at him. Great. Be honest, that was a really good goal. Well taken volley by Souček, wasn't it? On the volley. Paul, good evening to you. Under 18s, under 21s play good attacking football. They sure do. Hammer, Stell, do you know if we can recall? No, we can't. It's one season, full season. We can't recall him. Montana, good evening to you. Stell, Newcastle and United played 18-year-olds as defensive midfielders, yet Moyes is saying cannot play an 18-year-old striker. The dinosaur knows no bounds. Yeah, good point. Dan, it's funny, but I think one of the reasons our youth teams are playing so well is because of the systems they use. Far more free-flowing. Is it... correct me if I'm wrong. Is it a 5-3-2 or is it a 3-4-3? I don't know which one it is. I think it's a wing back system, isn't it? Montana again. I remember Terry Venables when Leeds were in the final days were in their final days in 2003. Sharky, Hammers News as reliable as Claret. Like and subscribe. Yeah, please do. If you're new to the channel, it's the first time you're watching, I do ramble on, but if you're enjoying me rambling on, then do hit the like button and the subscribe button and the bell notification to let you know when my next show's on. Thank you, Hammerette. Adam, our worst problem is passing from the back. Our passing is terrible and so slow, and they haven't got the passing skills and worry about losing the ball. It's so backwards also. I agree with that. Our passing at the back is pretty non-existent. Is that why maybe he's put Ward-Prowse further back so he can start building up the pass and move? I don't know. Am I clutching there? No, Foe has not been around lately. Yeah, he's not been around. Oh man. My barometer with Moyes is how many games have we not won but played well in, opposed to playing awful in games and squeaking by. I don't know the answer to that, but I'll try and find out. Brendan, good evening to you, mate. Alan Devonshire, superb, and did not try to play football in a horizontal position like Paqueta. He does go down an awful lot, doesn't he? It is really frustrating sometimes. All buffering, but thank God for that. Thank God for that. It was buffering for 30 seconds. Good. Ultra, good evening to you. Moyes' football is good enough against the bottom teams, but not good enough against the top teams. So we're projecting mid-table with this type of football. Good point. Yeah, good point. I accept that. HH, good evening to you. Sadly, you cannot do much about internet issues unless you pour a load of dosh into it. So whenever your Wi-Fi goes, there's probably some people in the area all demanding Wi-Fi. I'm going to get a booster. Are they worth getting, those boosters? Sharky, still webcam based. I'm not answering that. I might incriminate myself. Brendan, rumour has it that Moyes does not play Kehrer as he is jealous of the love Kehrer got from the fans after the cup win. Upton Turf, good evening to you. Moyes relies on a narrow band of his squad. We have good squad, the wider squad, and you needs more youth as well. I agree with that. I hope he doesn't play. I hope he doesn't do what he did a couple of seasons back, where he only used like a core 15 odd players, because we do have a better squad than we did have last season and the season before that as well. Freddie Sears plays for Colchester. Yeah, he does. And Sean, happy birthday, Freddie Sears. He turned 34 today. He's still playing. Good luck to him. Trini, we should dispense with playing it out from the back until we have the majority of players who can play that way. That's a good point. Good point. Afternoon to you, Mulder, from LA. Sunny, is it? Bastard. I hope you are, mate. Thank you for joining. Trini, get an Ethernet connection instead of Wi-Fi. Well, the thing is downstairs. I'm upstairs. You're going to get a long cable to connect up to that. It's annoying. Don't think Wi-Fi boosters making a difference. I might not spend my money on it. Right, let's move on to the next part of the show before my Wi-Fi goes down again. It goes down again, shall we? Oh shit! What am I doing? Oh. Now, you see, I don't know what I'm doing because I should have played that video before I did all the under 18s and the under 21 stuff. So you've seen it on the video thinking he's going to talk about the under 18s and under 21s again, but he's not, because he's going to talk firstly about the man of the moment, Divin Mubama. Divin Mubama agency has apparently refused to allow David Sullivan to meet directly with the player to try and sort out the stalemate in contract negotiations between player and club. Now, he recently, I think he moved to them at the beginning of this season, is my understanding. Divin Mubama moved to Elite Management at the beginning of the summer, and where they're based in Chelmsford in Essex, and they've got really only one real big player that's on their books, and that is Chelsea's Conor Gallagher. The next most expensive player that they have on their books is Joel Veltman of Brighton. And Mubama is rumored to be worth something like on the transfer market about £800,000. So they've got only a handful of Premier League players, one that's really of real worth to elite management, and the rest, Veltman is valued at something like 10 million, and then it goes down from there on in. They've got a lot of players in the Championship on their books, from League One, League Two, etc. So I'm just wondering whether elite see Mubama as their next meal ticket, which is maybe why an agreement can't be made in terms of getting a new deal at West Ham United. Look, from what I understand, I'm not allowed. I've been told I'm not allowed to give away the amount of money that's been offered, and I understand why I'm not allowed to. So I can't tell you what it is, but I can tell you from what I've been told, he's been offered a very competitive contract to stay at West Ham United, and the best I can do is suggest to you to go and see what Declan Rice was on when he went from academy football to professional football, because I've been told it's akin to that. It's similar to that. It's a competitive wage, which can be bolstered by appearances. Apparently, he'd get an increase in his basic salary for every 10 league games he makes appearances in. Or is that 10 starts? I don't know. I think it's appearances, plus other bonuses, playing in Europe, etc., scoring goals and all that sort of stuff. So these players, young players, they do get, of course you're not going to start on 50, 60 grand a week like some of the more established players are going to be on. But these young players, when they break through, there's a structure at West Ham. Whether you agree with it or not is irrelevant. I actually do agree with it, that there's a structure at West Ham when an academy player breaks through from the academy into the senior team. They're then offered a wage band, and then that wage band will be increased by appearances, by goals scored, or for defenders and goalies by clean sheets, and stuff like that. And for there's an increase. Every 10 games played, your basic wage goes up. And then another 10 games, your basic wage goes up, etc., etc. And so Mubama's offer is no different to what Declan Rice was on, to what Ben Johnson was put on when they moved from academy to senior team. And I think it's the right thing to do. Now, agencies probably don't, because the agency won't earn a lot of money from that structure. Whereas if Mubama decided, or if Mubama signed on with another club, on a free transfer, you'll get a signing on fee. The agency will get, a fee out of that as well. They'll get a nice little sum in their back pockets and so on. So it kind of makes a lot more sense for an agency to either try and get a bigger wage for their academy, for their young player, or to move to another club. Now, I've said many times before, I think players who turn 18, about to get their professional contracts or longer term professional contracts, etc., I think at times they're badly advised. I'm not suggesting, I don't want to be sued or anything, I'm not suggesting at all that elite management are badly advising Mubama. I think they probably want what's best for the player, but at the same time, they're going to want what's best for the agency as well. How much money can we make out of this player? Because if they've only got Conor Gallagher as their meal ticket, they can only make money from Gallagher if he's sold. And if he's not likely to be sold anytime soon at Chelsea, from Chelsea, then they've got to then look at, well, what else have we got? Where can we bring some income in? And getting a basic salary at West Ham to extend Mubama's deal is not going to make an awful lot of money. They'll make some money out of it. Of course they do. They always get their cut, but they could possibly make more money when it comes to the player going to another club. All right, I know what you're going to say. Well, on a free, how can they earn any money? Well, they'll still get, there'll be a signing on fee. The agency will agree with that. They'll deal with that. They'll get a cut. They'll get their share. And it's likely to possibly be more than it would be if Mubama stayed at West Ham. So I think this is disappointing, because we're at a bit of a stalemate. Because I do really think that West Ham United want to keep this player. I think they were really, really disappointed when Harrison Ashby left for Newcastle last summer, and they don't want this to happen again. And there are other players that have moved on, and we haven't really worried about it because I don't think, West Ham offered Sonny Perkins a deal to stay, but he didn't want it. But I don't think they tried as hard enough to keep him because they were saying to themselves, well, we've got Divin Mubama, who's a lot, and I've always thought Mubama was better than Perkins. So it will be an absolute shame to lose him. And, there's been a lot of comments made. Ian Wright on Match of the Day talked about Mubama, saying he liked him, etc. Thought he should be playing more game time. David Moyes came out with this. I don't know how many 19-year-old centre-forwards are playing in the Premier League. The level of competition as centre-forward is really high, but Divin is different from the rest. He has a mentality and an attitude that is as good as any top player. That doesn't sound like a manager to me that doesn't want to play this player. I think, all right, Moyes is careful, far too careful when it comes to playing youth players, and that is disappointing. But I think he does want Mubama to stay. And I think Moyes is starting to see that he can utilise and trust that player more because of his mentality and his attitude, etc., etc. The player himself said after the game, it was great to come on, get more minutes, show the boss what I can do. We get to the end of crosses and things like that. This is what I like. Bring energy, put defenders on the back foot. I've tried to do that in every game. I've done that all the way through during my career in academy, etc., etc. And thanks to the gaffer for bringing me on, allowing me to come on, showing what I can do. With players unavailable come opportunities in football, and you have to step up and take them and be ready for them. The fans are a definite help, massive help. I can hear them on the pitch, can hear them when I'm warming up. It gives a massive confidence and boost for sure. I'm definitely eyeing more minutes. I'm always buzzing for more minutes, blah, blah, blah. And I want to deliver and looking forward to Thursday. Now, that sounds to me like this player totally gets and understands that it's going to take time for him to get more minutes in this team. It sounds to me that he's quite prepared to bide his time. And when he gets his opportunity, he will take it with relish, like he did in the game against Burnley at the weekend. Because I think he did take his opportunity. I think he played superbly well. He changed the way we played our football. I think Ben Rama also did as well, because Ben Rama, when he came on, he was pressing their defenders to go further back, whereas their defenders were sort of freely going forward, helping out the attack. When Ben Rama came on, he helped to suppress that somewhat, and Kudus then found more space over on his side. But Mubama made that difference because he was hassling the defenders. He was closing them down. And I think he did show what he's capable of doing. Now, whatever we think of Moyes' comments, it seems from his comments that he's keen to nurture the player into the first team. Despite his limited appearances, the young lad, he's a West Ham fan. He's been with West Ham United since the age of 8. And I think he wants to make his mark here. And what's stopping the agreement? And I think I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And it is only my opinion. It's not something information I've been given, etc. It's just that what I've researched and I've looked into, who elite management are, who they've got on their books. They are a company of agencies that want to make money. That's what agencies are in football business for. They want to make money. So I hope it gets sorted. But it's interesting that the agency won't let Mubama meet with David Sullivan. I didn't expect them to, but won't allow him to meet with David Sullivan to thrash this out. I hope they can get together and thrash out an agreement that's good for everybody. Because if he does leave, a tribunal will get us back, what, £400,000-500,000, something like that. Way too little compensation for a player that I actually believe, and I think a lot of us do think, is actually going to make it in football in terms of not make it, just lower leagues, etc. But I think he's got a very good opportunity to play a lot of game time at West Ham and make a mark at the club. But whilst we want Mubama to stay at the club, should we be held to ransom to increase his wages? We've heard the things before, haven't we? Pay him what he wants, pay him what he's worth, pay. there's a problem with that, isn't there? Because the minute you start paying a player coming through the academy into the Premier League, into the first team, sorry, and you start paying him, bigger wages, the next player that's going to come through is going to go, you paid Mubama all this money. We want the same. Otherwise, we'll hold you to ransom as well. And that's why I agree. I said a moment ago, I agree with having that wage structure. Many teams do. Almost every team does. They've got a wage structure in place. They will pay players a value coming through the academy into the first team, and so on and so forth. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, apparently, we've also heard that Declan Rice is now getting involved. I don't know how true that rumor is either. I couldn't get it corroborated earlier today, but apparently Declan Rice is going to contact or has contacted Mubama to try and encourage him to accept a new deal. And like I said earlier, Declan Rice accepted this deal. Declan Rice didn't start off with an awful lot of money when he moved from academy to senior team football. He accepted that better things were to come. You've got to go and prove yourself. You've got to prove yourself on a consistent basis in order to get that wage rise, in order to get that kudos, in order to sort of move up, the ladder, etc. And look what's happened with Rice. He was on good money, because I know a lot of people say he was only on about 50 grand a week, 60 grand a week at the end of it. That was his base wage, but he was getting a hell of a lot of bonuses on appearances, etc., to bolster that. And he was getting near on 80, 90, 100 grand a week with all the bonuses, etc. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that Mubama will start getting bonuses and all of a sudden be earning 70, 80 grand a week. No, he won't. But in time, when you continue, you come in, it's great now because we know he's got the capability of probably doing something. What he's going to have to do is prove it on a regular basis now. Getting more game time, getting more minutes, showing what he's worth. And then the wages will continue to go up and up and up, and that, to me, feels the right way to go about your business, because if we turn around to Mubama now and say, no worry, mate, we'll give you 50 grand a week and bonuses, then all the other academy players that break through are going to probably want the same. So I hope it gets worked out, but it's interesting. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not pointing the finger at elite management. I'm just talking about what agencies do. They have a player on their books. Of course, they want the best for their player, but at the same time, they want the best for their agency as well to earn money. And I hope he doesn't get misguided, because we've seen other players go through it at West Ham, and it happens elsewhere as well. We've seen players go through it. They think they're the bee's knees. The agency talks them up. Don't worry, mate. We'll get you a better deal elsewhere. We'll get you 40 grand a week if you go and play for, some other team, but it may not be as good as. I think the rumor at the moment is that Derby is interested in getting him on loan. What are Derby going to pay him if they get him on a permanent? Are they going to pay him 40 grand a week? I doubt it very much. Right. What else we got? We've a bit of injury news updates as well. So we've got, of course, Jarrod Bowen, who got injured on England duty. Now, I suggested that last week that there was thinking that there was fluid on his knee. Now, that's a pretty easy, that's a pretty easy thing to sort out. You have a smaller, what do you have? Small surgery, very quick surgery, which drains the fluid out, and then you rest for up to about 10 days, something like that. Now, I don't know at this point whether Bowen has had that surgery or not, because West Ham have gone very quiet. David Moyes, of course, did his theatrics, saying, he might be ready for Burnley. Bullshit. He was never going to be ready for Burnley, and it's highly unlikely he's going to be ready for TSC as well. And if anything, he'll be rested. Even if he is available, he'll be rested for the game against TSC. Excuse me again. He'll be rested for the game against TSC, and it's possible that he still may make it back for the game against Crystal Palace at the weekend. But I'm thinking, because the club has gone a little bit quiet, all right, it's only Monday, but because the club has gone a little bit quiet, there's a possibility that he may not make the Crystal Palace game this coming weekend. So we'll see. I think we'll probably know, we'll have a better idea by around about Wednesday, Thursday. When we start seeing photos of players that are in training, etc. at Rush Green, if you see a photo of Jarrod Bowen, he's fine. But if you don't, then there's a suggestion that maybe he may not be available probably until the game after Crystal Palace. But we'll see. Mikel Antonio, well, as I said last week, apparently it's not a 3-month or a 9-month or a career-ending injury. He could be out till around about Christmas, and that also hasn't changed. There's a suggestion that it'll be 3 or 4 weeks. I think it'll be the latter. He might just be back in time for the Liverpool game in the League Cup, or possibly the Man United game. However, if that doesn't happen, then it's quite possible that he'll be back in time for the game on the 28th of December, away to Arsenal. Right. What else have we got? Well, that's it for a moment, because I'm going to talk a little bit more about the team at the game at the weekend. But before I do that, I'm going to go back into your chats and see what else we got. Ultra. Still, what do you think about us being linked with Bergwijn? I didn't think much of him at Spurs. I know he's doing quite well at Ajax. But like all the other transfer news, I don't take a lot of interest in it at the moment. Like I said earlier on in the show, what I'll do is when we get closer to the transfer window opening a couple of weeks before, then I'll start talking about some transfer news. But the one thing I used to do really badly in the past is I talk about every single transfer story that was out there. And it used to waste your time listening to it and my time putting it together. So what I'm going to aim to do is what I did in the last summer transfer window, and talk about those rumours that seem to have some sort of mileage in them, that seem to have some legs. So at the moment, I think it's too easy to suggest that we're going after Bergwijn. It's all that link to Ajax, Steiden going out there, getting Kudus and getting Alvarez. And of course, we're going to go and raid Ajax. Ajax haven't done that well this season. I don't know if they picked up since the beginning of the season, but they weren't doing that well. And I don't think they're going to thank the board for letting anyone else leave the club anytime soon. So I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. Ralph, Ultra, Hammer's chat was saying some Dutch media outlet said he's useful as a sack of spuds. There you go. Brendan, I like the Wi-Fi microphone issues you have. I'm not into polished professional stuff. Trust me, mate. This is a lot better than it used to be. People will tell you. I used to have boards being knocked down on my head. I used to have the microphone go down. I used to have the Wi-Fi completely go off for longer than a few seconds. So I tell you what, this is about as good as it ever gets, Brendan. Obsidian, pay for your own Wi-Fi. Stop stealing the neighbours. Oh, here we go. Mubama, not Mubama. I know. I've tried. I've been saying Mubama all night. I know that, Matt, because I got told off by Barry for saying Mubama. And if I say it quickly, it might come out Mubama. How long is Mubama's contract? It ends in June 2024. So he's got just under 7 months left, mate. English, another one I haven't seen for a while. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. The youth teams at West Ham apparently are playing a different style than the senior team. Thank God for that. I'm so happy the youth players don't play that low block bullshit. Upton, apparently... Someone needs to tell me. I think it's a 5-3-2 they're playing, and others have suggested it's a 3-4-3. Which one is it, or is it both? Upton, give him game time, regardless of financial packages. He needs game time. Absolutely. I think he's going to get his game time anyway, but it'd be great if we can get him to sign. Ultra, we need a quality striker, but we definitely won't get a good one in January. And is there any point in signing one with Moyes still in charge? Well, that's a good question, and a valid one as well, because we've seen the way Moyes has handled strikers. He doesn't do too well. He'd rather create a striker rather than buy a striker. Trini, players need to stop trying to make money for their agents and think about their careers. They're becoming cash cows. They absolutely are. But Mubama is quite young and, wet behind the ears. And you think about, if you're 19, how much knowledge did you have and good advice did you get at that sort of age? So it worries me. And you're right. It worries me that agents don't always give their clients the best advice. Hamret, I agree with whoever said it earlier. We should all refer Mubama as moves for Stell's benefit. Bill, keep academy players and possible sell-on fee later is going to be the mantra of the club going forward. Totally agree. The academy costs have got to be recovered. Absolutely agree. And that is going to be a policy moving forward. Trini, this manager needs to be told to really try to integrate our youngsters to actually find out if they fit. With Moyes, we will not find out. I will put it to you, like I've said before, that he's not the only Premier League manager that won't put youngsters forward. Because it's look, like it or not, the business of football in the Premier League is to win games. And I know the great old saying years back, you can't win anything with kids. But it's a massive challenge for Premier League managers to try and bring youngsters in. You may get them playing, let's say for argument's sake, we beat TSC and we find ourselves in a position that no matter what happens, we top our group, Europa League group, you'll see youngsters play in the final game against Freiburg, only if we can't be caught winning the group. And that gives them an opportunity, just like Moyes did a few times back. He did it last season, did it the season before, where he played a bunch of youngsters. But it's a worry for Premier League managers. And I don't think David Moyes is the only one that won't necessarily play a lot of youngsters. Hamret, I hear that Sully was refused a one-to-one talk with Mubama, but his agent about his contract talks. Yep, just said that. Sai, I would rather see Callum Marshall given a chance. I think Callum Marshall is coming through. I think what we're trying now to do is to try and sign him on a longer term professional contract, so we don't suffer the same thing that we've suffered with other players and potentially suffering with Mubama. Upton, it beggars belief, it beggars bluff. Don't play him because he's more valuable because of promise, rather than playing him and see what promise he shows when he gets the minute. Good point. Trini, players these days have prepared statements. His goal celebrations tell me what he really thinks. It's his time now. I don't know. I think that was rather a raw interview, to be quite honest with you. I think he was saying that off the cuff, to be quite honest. Clive, the club gave Benrahma the number 9 shirt before Antonio, so why is he not being used as a striker? Good point, Clive. Yeah, did he wear the number 9 shirt? I don't think he did. Could be wrong. I don't remember Benrahma ever having the number 9 shirt. I definitely don't think he did. Anyway, English Yardie. Basically, Moyes is a coward. I hate his logic. Trini said he needs to integrate the youth with the senior team. The youngsters need a chance. That's why, for me, Moyes needs to go. And here's the irony, and this is not made up. Here's the irony. When Moyes came back for the second time, one of the first things that he did was integrate the youth players more with the senior squads in pre-season. And when you look at pre-season, ever since Moyes has been back, you get an awful lot of academy players, youth players, training with the senior squad, playing friendlies, pre-season friendlies, etc. And Moyes did that. Moyes actually brought them back in. Now, I suggested that it's not just down to Moyes. Moyes makes the final decision, but he will be getting reports about the academy players from the academy coaches. Steve Potts and Kevin Keane will be talking to Moyes about the academy and talking about who's doing well, etc., etc. So I think Moyes is well informed about who might be closer to being ready to being anywhere near the first team. Mubama's come through. I think Callum Marshall will. I think Freddie Potts, who's out on loan at Wickham, when he gets back from his injury. He's had a good season so far until his injury at Wickham. There are a few players that will break through. I think we're expecting half a dozen players from the academy to break through. That just doesn't work that way. Gone are the days of Alec Ferguson, bringing his, half a dozen players through. That just hardly happens these days. Let me scroll down. Adam, Marshall is class, but still young and needs to put muscle on. But he will make it. He's that good. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Upton, all well and good style. Mubama has had little minutes, and I think he'll get more. Trini, currently Mubama is on less than £1,000 a week. Is that right? Probably. It probably is correct. I think a lot of the academy players are on something like £500 a week, something like that. Now, the offer he's been made, from what I've been told, is a lot more than that. A lot more, a hell of a lot more. But it's not as much as what a senior team player will be getting. I think senior team players are on 50, 45, 50, 60 and upwards. He won't be getting that, but it's nowhere near it. It'll be a lot closer to 40 grand a week than it is to a grand. Let's put it that way. Adam, Antonio needs to go. He's poor and not a striker. I want him gone. He's lost his pace, keeps falling down too easy. He's breaking the other players. He's breaking the other players. He's left them down. He's let them down, and you can see it in games. Well, it's surprising, and I said this a few weeks back. It's absolutely surprising that he's been given a year more on his contract. He won't leave West Ham until he's 36. Sean, Antonio will be a good impact sub and mentor for Mubama, no longer a starter. I agree with that. Mark, good evening to you, Mark. I hope you're well. I had water in my knee once and let it heal naturally. On doctor's recommendation, draining the knee works, but could reoccur. Yes, it could. You're absolutely right. Old man, I bet Mubama's agency is saying to Sully, pay us more, as you'll get financial fair points deducted if you go out and spend millions on another striker. That's a really good point. That's a really good point, because when it comes to financial fair play, it's not only what you spend in the transfer market, it's also how much you're paying your players in salaries. So you've got a very good point there. And if we go out and buy, I don't think we're going to get a striker in January. I really don't. Will we get players? That I don't know. It's possible. I think, if anything, we need another one or two to maybe freshen up the squad. But quite possibly, if we lose players, we'll bring in players. That's possibly what will happen. But that's a really good point, because we know it's going to be cheaper to pay Mubama money than it would be to get a player in the transfer window. Really good point. Bill, Steiden keeps away from social media, so any future players or coaches will be kept under his belt and surprise us all, hopefully. Good. And I hope that's the way transfers should work. So you're going to hear me and a lot of other channels spout an awful lot of stuff about transfers when we haven't got a Scooby, if it's true. Oh, sorry, Bill. I know I've done that one. Good evening, Mandy. How are you? He would be on big appearance bonuses, Trini. Who would? It's a 5-3. I thought it was a 5-3-2. Yeah, so they got attacking wing backs, the under 21s and the under 18s, and they are smashing it. Let's scroll down to try and catch up. I'm not far off, because I've got one more thing to talk about before I bid you farewell. Mandy, I think it's on youth wages, but we'll get around 2,000 if he starts and less for a sub. That's my guess. I think wages are around about £1,000, £500 to £1,000. Maybe not as low as 500, but it won't be much more than, say, £2,000. Yeah. Trini, at 19, my mum would have been my agent, and she would have definitely kept my feet on the ground. There you go. There you go. He did change his agency at the beginning of the summer, and every time a player changes agency, you start worrying, don't you? Trini again. It does not have to be wholesale changes, just regular real game time action. You cannot judge them otherwise. I don't disagree with that. But what do you do as a manager? When Moyes played a slightly different team against Olympiacos away from home, everyone was like, what the hell are you doing? Why aren't you playing your strong team? And then in the same breath, we're going, well, we need to give youth a chance. So you got to pick your moments. Bill, my mum would have gone for more money to help with the housekeeping. Yeah, well, yeah, okay. But how long? I mean, look at other players that have left. We talked about Freddie Sears earlier on, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hit big money by moving on elsewhere. Brendan, I think Mubama looks like he's physically ready for grown-up footy. I think Callum Marshall needs to put on a bit of muscle first. Don't disagree with that. Sean, Benny was 9, gave it up. Yeah, okay. You were right there, Clive. 1K. Good evening to you. Seems to have gone all quiet on the takeover. Have you heard anything? No, mate. Reason being, because it was a lot of bollocks. And I did say that several times over. The Qataris are not coming, and they're not going to take over. But of course, we want to believe what we want to believe. and people really believed that the Qataris were going to take over. Not yet. It's going to be interesting to see who buys the gold shares. I can't remember their name. Jackie Gold. No. The daughter that's now taken over David Gold's shares, and she's put some up for sale. I mentioned this about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's going to be very interesting to see who goes out and buys those shares. And I don't think it's going to be the Qataris. Anthony, Man United played an 18-year-old making his Premier League debut, even cleared one off the line. Yeah, saw that in Match of the Day. For Man United, played really well and got a really good applause when he came off. Yeah, one player, yeah. But all right, okay. Even Moyes doesn't even do that. But yeah, good point. Huge. Still, just watched the Dev Squad smash, the development squad smash Middlesbrough 5-1. Lewis Orford is a ringer for Declan. Not only looks like him, but plays the same as well. Yeah, really good point. Lewis Orford is just another one to look out for. Lewis Orford, Freddie Potts, another defensive midfielder as well, doing really well. We have got some very good youngsters coming through. Would we expect them all to come through at the same time? I don't know. I don't think so. You know, I think it's wishful thinking that we're going to get like 4 or 5 youngsters coming through the development squad. But hopefully, you know, we get Mubama being the next one to break through properly. And then maybe next season, maybe another 1 or 2. You know, if you drip feed 1 or 2 coming through being regular senior squad regulars, maybe not getting a lot of game time, but senior squad regulars, then you start believing that there's a future for them. And I think there is. I think they are great, huge. Leon, it's a new name. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining, mate. 100% Antonio is a super sub, and see what Mubama can do. Absolutely. Brendan, Antonio does less on the pitch, the more lip flapping he does on the podcast. Isn't it a shame? Isn't it a shame where he's at? You know, do your talking on the pitch would be better. Scott, I expect a number of transfers in January, in and out, as well as loans. I expect Benny, Krez, Antonio, Johnson gone, and at least a left back, right back, winger, centre back, and midfielder in. Steidem will get it done. I think you're wishing too much there, mate. That's too many, especially in January. Maybe a few players going out, maybe, and then replacing them almost like for like. But to have Benny, Creswell, Antonio, Johnson, no, I don't know. Johnson has got 6 months left, quite possibly. Antonio has signed an extended contract. No way is he going. Creswell, yeah, last few months of his contract might keep him on and then let him go for nothing by the end of the season. Benrahma, there is rumour about him going to Saudi. And there's a possibility, but I'm not so sure where, you know, he's not at the end of his contract. So I doubt very much that that will happen. Maybe in the summertime for Benrahma. Maybe in the summer. Upton. Moyes drilling the youth about his system and how their football responsibility should fit it. Not easy. Well, I'm not saying that he would make them play that way, or will he? Stalemate, absolutely no way on earth that Bournemouth are going to let their main striker go to West Ham United in January. It's just not going to happen. Right, let's get on to the last part of the show, shall we? And let you all go to bed. Right, I'm not going to cover it in full because I did a review on the game against Burnley on Sunday. So please, please go and watch that after the show to get a more, full review. But there are a few things that we've got to talk about, isn't there? And the first, of course, is the team news. Like I said in the review, I think we were okay up to the 10th player, and then Danny Ings, and we kind of like, why? And I spent an awful lot of time in the review that I did on Sunday talking about Ings and how he doesn't fit our system, and our system doesn't fit Ings. We're not a match made in heaven. And people now starting to talk about, oh, well, he'll still play him on Sunday against Crystal Palace if we don't have any other choices. I don't think Moyes will. I think Moyes gave Danny Ings an hour, and even he must have realised and accepted the fact that Danny Ings, at best, should come on as a sub. than actually starting a game. Will Divin Mubama start on Sunday or on Thursday? No, I don't think he will. But I think Divin Mubama has probably gone up the pecking order ahead of Danny Ings now. And as I said, suggested before, I think we have alternative options. I think we have other ways of playing that David Moyes is probably going to experiment with on Thursday against TSC and probably try to utilize something similar on Sunday if we don't have Bowen back. Certainly won't have Antonio back. But I don't think it's going to include Ings. I think, as I said earlier in the show, I think Moyes is likely to want to have to go or have no choice but to go with a false number 9. And he can do that in a number of ways. He can either put Ben Rama in the lineup and push Paquetá into the middle of the park as a false number 9, or he could bring on Cornet, play him as a striker that he's done before, or he could even possibly put Cornet out on the right and have Kudus play up front as a false number 9 as well. And I think we're going to see a glimpse of that in the game against TSC in order to give us an understanding, excuse me, of what might happen in the game against Crystal Palace at the weekend. But one player we've got to talk about is Thomas Souček. Now, how much grief has this player got? We talked about him a little bit earlier on in the show. How much grief has this player received by a large section of the fan base over the last sort of season and a half or so? Now, do you remember last season I was saying that I think Souček we're not getting the best out of him because we're accommodating Declan Rice too much. Now, if you remember what Declan Rice was doing when he first, started playing regularly in the team, Declan Rice was our Alvarez as is now. He was our defensive midfielder. That's what Declan Rice knew. That's what Declan Rice was in the team for, to play defensive midfield, to allow the rest of the midfield to go forward and attack. And Souček was better going forward. Do you remember that season, a couple of seasons back, when he scored 10 goals? Souček was that player that will grab you a goal, whether by head or whatever, but always finding himself in the right place to sort of get on the end of a ball, whether it be a cross or whatever it may have been. And he was stifled doing that last season because Declan wanted to play a different way of football for himself. Now, I know a lot of people don't like that, but truth is truth. When Declan Rice was playing his last season at West Ham United, everything was going through Declan Rice. Now, Dan XG is on, and he even said that. He kind of made me more aware to it, to be quite honest with you. Look at the way he was always saying, look at the way we're playing. Everything seems to have to go through Declan. Declan wanted to go further forward. Declan Rice wanted to be something different on the pitch. He wanted to be more that sort of more box-to-box midfielder, which was to the detriment of Thomas Souček. Now, Thomas Souček, all of a sudden went from scoring 10 goals in a season to scoring hardly any. I think he got 3 or 4 last season, something like that. Now, that project, that Declan Rice project, would have worked had Declan Rice got us 10 goals last season, which he didn't. He got as many as Thomas Souček did. So between them, they would sort of balance themselves out. But I think it would have been better if we had Declan Rice doing what Declan Rice was good at, and that was to be the defensive midfielder, to allow Thomas Souček to maraud more forward. What did I say when the transfer window opened in the summer? I said, if nothing else, our most important signing is going to be a defensive midfielder, because that will make our midfield tick again. And I think we've got that. I think getting Edson Alvarez in as our defensive midfielder to do the job that Declan Rice used to do is, in a way, a bit of a masterstroke. It was a necessity, a necessary masterstroke, because what that's allowed is Thomas Souček to go further forward. Souček has now scored something like, 4 goals in the league for us. He's scored like 4 in the last 4, 2 in international football and 2 for West Ham United. And he's getting back to doing what Thomas Souček does best. He's never going to be the most flair of footballers, but what he is a nuisance. And as I said earlier on, the technique he used for scoring that goal against Burnley was superb. If we had any other player, if we had Paquetá doing that, we'd be waxing lyrical about that superb volley. That was Thomas Souček. And I think he is getting back to his best. And that beggars the question, is he droppable? Would you actually drop Thomas Souček now from the first team? Because he's doing what he used to do. And I'm going to say now, I reckon Souček's going to get us, he's going to get double-figure goals this season in the Premier League. I think he will. I think he will get, as near as, damn it, I think he'll get as close to 9 or 10 goals as he did a couple of seasons ago, because he's appearing in the right place at the right time. And I think it's superb for him. Much maligned as a player. I think another player that came alive, of course, we've got to talk about Mohamed Kudus. Did almost nothing for the game. But as we said, you've got to praise Mubama for him coming on and giving Kudus something to aim for in the final minutes of the game. And what we saw, I think the first goal that he set up for us was absolutely superb. Beating 4 players, getting to the byline and getting the cross in was superb. Really, really great. And I think we've got a fantastic player on our hands if we didn't already know it. And these are the things that I've got, the positives that I've got out of the game. I think Souček is getting better again. I think Kudus is so now right into being a Premier League player, that you wonder why he didn't start games earlier in the season. I think we've got a lot of positives to take. All right, the game was boring. You're not going to deny that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The game was awful. The team selection, which included Ings, was not the right decision to make. But we got on when Moyes made the changes. He should have made them sooner, to be quite honest with you. As soon as they scored their penalty, that's when Moyes should have changed it rather than leaving it to the 60th minute. But when we made those changes, we looked a better team. We looked a different team. We were going forward a bit more. And there's this thing, someone said earlier on, Crystal Palace are going to let us have the ball at the weekend. I think the type of team that we finish with on Saturday against Burnley is the team that's likely to be, without Mubama, by the way, starting, is the team that's likely to start on Sunday against Crystal Palace. And because we've got more skillful footballers that are going to be able to get that ball moving around a lot quicker, a lot faster. So you've got to take some positives. I think we were lucky to win. But as I also said in the review, you create your own luck. And I think we did just that. I think we were very lucky not to go a goal down before in the first half, because I think the foul on Colliacho was much clearer. Soufal definitely fouled him. We got away with that. Whereas the penalty that was given for me was relatively soft. But I think their naivety allowed us to get back in the game. I think, against a better team, we probably wouldn't have got back into that game. I think we would have ended up probably losing it, maybe conceding another goal as well. So we can't keep doing what we're doing. And I'm hoping David Moyes has seen that, and he must know that Ings is not the player to be starting Premier League games. But on we go. I think there are lessons to have been learnt from that game. Team selection wise, the way we move up the ball around, going forward. I would like to see us strengthen at the back without a shadow of a doubt. But unfortunately, whilst Zuma is still fit, Zuma will get game time. Will we change it in any way against Crystal Palace? There'll be a change in lineup, but Moyes will still go with the 4-2-3-1 formation. I still think James Ward-Prowse is better going further forward. I think he's more effective. I think Alvarez, okay, I knew he'd be taken off because of all the jet lag he would have had, all that travelling he did on international duty, but it had gotten over that. So I think, it would be nice to see us go back to a 4-1-4-1 formation like we did at the beginning of the season, because I think that fared reasonably well. But yes, we were lucky, but you've got to ride your luck sometimes in games. And we did just that against Burnley. Right, let's finish off with your comments. Hammerette, I think the only way Benny goes in January is if selected for the AFCON. If he remains on the naughty list from then we'll need him more than sell him. I don't think he'll be sold. I think he'll be sold at the end of the season. Epic. We should sell Benrahma as soon as possible. As much as I find him entertaining, I have to admit he's over the hill. Let's scroll down. Anthony. Kudus was our best player when he decided to get his finger out of his arse. Bill, Kudus was man of the match for me. Moyes needs to go to Specsavers. Shaky. Not convinced with Zuma or Regerd. Antonio can take an extended holiday. He's toast. He could still, but will he? I've forgotten the question, so I don't know what that answer is related to. Mark, never notice how Moyes never calls out Ward-Prowse. Well, no, he's one of his players, isn't he? Leon, all the players had a poor game, and also Moyes. Trini, honestly, people who give grief to Souček really did not look at the whole game and just are stuck on his passing. Souček always scores goals as well as doing all the ugly stuff. I totally agree with you. And Trini again, Deck is an attacking midfielder in his dreams only. It spoiled our midfield in the end. I'm glad you agree with me because I thought I was going mad by saying that last season. Bill, unfortunately, too many fans look at statistics and not game contribution. Clive, I get your point on Rice still, but in reality, he's 23 years old, still developing. I didn't like it, but I understand it. I didn't like it because it was to the detriment of West Ham United. David Moyes, instead of pandering to him, should have gone, all right, lad, when we sell you, you can go and be an attacking midfielder elsewhere. But what I want you to do is defend in midfield, which is what he should have been told. Trini, Souček is hero worship when he plays for the Czech Republic. Absolutely right. Dan, he's already on 9 for the season, mate. Who's on 9 for the season? Souček. I didn't know that. No, not in the league, though. Is he? No, I thought he was only on 4, but you know better than I do. Hammer, I guess we aren't the only ones slow to the party. Forest have been betting in Elanga for about a year before the season, playing him every something and getting good returns from him. Steve, having one man running the show like Rice and Scott Parker is detrimental to the side. We're a more balanced side this year. We absolutely are 100% more balanced. Hammer, Bet Bowen is gutted he couldn't lengthen his away goals record. It's a shame, yeah. Leon, you're spot on, Hammerette. Elanga owned that wing the whole game. Let's scroll down. Stel, can we recall Potts from Wickham? That I don't know. I know we can't recall Downs from Southampton, but I don't know about Potts. Leon, thing is, Stel, we were nearly relegated playing with Rice last season, freeing up Souček to get into them positions. Yeah, we were nearly relegated, and that's because someone said it earlier on. We were in a more imbalanced team. We're much more balanced this season as well. Sean, was Diallo coming on from Newcastle mentioned earlier? I missed the start of the show. No, he wasn't mentioned. Mark, our squad players need game time still. What's your lineup for Thursday against Bakatopola? I didn't put it together. So, top of my head, you're going to get Fabianski in goal. I think Kera will play. I think Mavropanos will play. You may get Ogbonna playing. You may get Criswell playing at left back. Who else? Let me think. Alvarez, I think, will probably play. He always plays one of the senior first team players, doesn't he, in these games like Ward-Prowse or Paquetá. I'm going to go for Ward-Prowse. I'm going to go for Benrahma. You can get the other ones. I'll do a brief show about Bakatopola later in the week, and then I'll give more thought on that. Hammerette, we can't have another game where pretty much all of our side are turd. Fornals will play as well. Can cope with carrying 1 or 2 players on occasion, but all of them, we're lucky that Burnley were Burnley, to be fair. Absolutely. 9 goals, all competitions. Yeah, okay. And Dan, 9 in all competitions, 6 for us, 3 for his country. 6 already. He will get double figures. I'm even more confident now that he will. Good evening to the Platinum Finger Butch Cassidy. Good evening to you. And thank you for joining. and I hope you subscribed. It was Billich's fault. It went tits up, but the bunch of crap free transfers that he was saddled with, it was Billich's fault. But the bunch of, well, yeah, it was awful. I remember when we were leaving the bowl and we said we've got to move on from here and get the right players in, and then we got a load of tats, didn't we? Caleri, anyone? Upton, let me go to Upton first. We need to win on Thursday. He needs to put a strong side out. He needs to put a decent side out, but we should be able to beat TSC even with a decent side without it being necessarily the strongest side. Paul, Burnley have won one game all season. Shouldn't have to rely on luck. They were better. They were the better team. I totally agree. Brendan, so saying turd reminds you of 4 hours. Not at all. That's it. Just done 2 hours. As usual. Thank you all for watching. James, we were unlucky before though, Paul. Yeah, we were. Yeah. Thank you all. Much appreciated. As you know, I'm trying to do the West Ham daily shows that come out in the morning. So you've got all day to catch up on them. So when some decent news comes out, I will put that show out. I'll also will do some kind of preview about the Bakatopola. I won't be going. I can't go. I've got to look after the cats, even though they ate my dinner. I did tell you that story earlier on. So anyway, I won't be going. So no, I'm not going to do a watch along. I couldn't think of anything worse. But I will do a preview. I'll do a review probably the following morning, etc. So look out for those as well. Thank you all for watching. Really much appreciated with all the comments and the chat. You know, that's what keeps the show going. I really, really appreciate it. So have a good week. We're on the up. David Moyes has played a youngster. Who knows what could happen next? Have a good week and see you all soon.